Yes, I am Brian Adams, but I am not the Canadian rock star, and I will not be singing for you tonight. But I do hope to rock your world with an idea that's changed mine. Over the last 20 years, I've had the privilege of working with over 200 global brands like Nike, Apple, and American Airlines, helping them design and shape their culture with employer brand strategy. This is where we build a reputation as an employer, a value proposition, so they can find and keep the best talent possible. During the research phase of this work, I've listened to literally thousands of employees, managers, and leaders talk about what it's really like to work inside these organizations. What I've come to realize is listening to these tales, these stories, everybody is talking about their sense of purpose, sense of impact, and a sense of belonging. And this is what I've come to refer to as my shorthand formula for happiness. Happiness at work, happiness in our job. Now, unfortunately, a recent survey showed that 59%, nearly two-thirds of the world's people are unhappy at work. Now, that's not just a personal tragedy. That equates to an $8.1 trillion loss in global productivity. Now, my life's work is aimed at helping to build a world where everyone loves their job. Now, I know that sounds utopian. I believe it's possible, but it's more than that. This is about unleashing the true potential of a global workforce. But Houston, we have a problem. Something is stopping our global leaders from fully buying into the conventions of employer brand. Something is stopping and holding us back from embracing what I think is the true potential to unleash these organizations. Now, this has been frustration of mine for many years, and it's puzzled me. But actually, I think I know why now. Does anyone recognize this quote? Culture eats strategy for breakfast. Now, the great Peter Drucker has probably forgotten more about business strategy than I will ever know. And I agree with the sentiment, but actually, I've got to say, on this occasion, Mr. Drucker, you got it wrong. Because culture can't eat strategy for breakfast when culture is a strategy. It's called employer branding, and today I want to share with you one idea that dispels three big misconceptions of employer branding, such when you stack them together, it adds up to a predictable blueprint that can finally unleash the greatest asset in business. You, us, the people, employees. What are these three big misconceptions? Well, they are alignment, attractiveness, and authenticity. Solve for these, change the world. Are you ready to dive in with me? All right, let's get going. Alignment. To talk about alignment, I want to let you into a couple of little secrets. The first. Now, over the years, I've worked with dozens of global CEOs. It turns out that they like people just as much as the rest of us. However, they are never going to prioritize people and happiness over all else, because leading organizations is hard. It's tough. They have to deliver results. If they don't increase the share price, there's a good chance they're getting fired. So until we can predictably turn talent into capability that they can trust to move the organization forward, they're never going to prioritize. And nor should they. The second secret, closely aligned to the first, is employer brand leaders. Now, they're some of the smartest people I've ever worked with. They tend to be very compassionate. They tend to be empathetic. They build strategy which is human-centric, in service to candidates, employees, and even alumni, people who have left the organization. truth is, if employer brand strategy isn't first designed in service to an organization first, it'll never be taken seriously as the primary business strategy I know it can be. It was Zig Ziglar that first said this. Happiness isn't pleasure, happiness is victory. And then Winston Churchill said this, without victory, there is no survival. So think about this. Companies can win whilst people are happy, but only in victory. And this is core to my idea. How do we do it? Well, we're back to alignment. We need a predictable plan, and we need to understand what are the capabilities our leaders are looking for to drive our organization forward. And then we need to reverse engineer a reputation as an employer that is tangible and helpful and effective. Now, the challenge here is when I go into most organizations and say, hey, what do we need our reputation as an employer to be? I hear things like, we want to be the most attractive. We want to be the best. We want to be known as a nice place to work. Well, from a business strategy perspective, that doesn't add up to a hill of beans. It's not tangible, it's not practical, and it's not helping our business leaders drive the organization forward. No, we need a tangible reputation as an employer. And let me give you a couple of examples. Apple is what I call a career catalyst, a place you go to accelerate your career. 2 years there is like 10 years anywhere else on your resume. But to get on the other side of that 2 years, you need so much resilience to cope with a tough, harsh environment that's going to ask for the best work of your life every day, relentlessly. It takes commitment and courage to drive forward in an environment like that. You need emotional intelligence to navigate a global, complex organization that's actually built on relationships. But to the career ambitious, that's a good deal. It's worth the investment for what you get. You get to work with the best, smartest people you've ever seen in your life. You get to find out your true potential faster than anywhere else, and you get to see the work that you do in the hands of millions of people every day. Now, those aren't secrets. They're not by accident. It's by design. Nike is a reputation I call citizenship. This is an organization you join if you are driven to leave the world better than you found it. Working with an amazing employer brand leader called Lyra Elder, we built a strategy based on one key insight. People joined for the power of the swoosh, but they stayed for the deep personal connection to the purpose. You see, at Nike, they run the organization, the whole organization globally, like a giant sports team. You need to be at the top of your game, but you need to do it with humility to put the team first. You need mental acuity and agility, ready to pivot and change in pursuit of the win. It's tough to operate at high performance inside of Nike. They ask the utmost from you, and so they should. But I've seen it firsthand. The magic of inspiring, moving, and motivating communities, bringing the world closer together through the power of sport. If you're driven to leave the world better than you found it, Nike's a good deal. Now, that's not a secret. It's not by accident. It's by design. Now, if you only build a reputation as an employer that is as tangible as those two examples, you will take a giant step forward as an organization and be so much more compelling to find and keep talent at the top of your game. And you will get the CEO's attention. Next is attractiveness. What could possibly be wrong with being attractive? Well, I think attractiveness is the enemy of compelling. Attractiveness and trying to use the same playbook as organizations use to sell iPhones and tennis shoes, it doesn't work. Attractiveness is the cancer that's holding us, the people, the employees, back, as well as organizations. No. I believe we need to dare to be compelling. What does this mean, though? Well, Most organizations will set out to brag about the strengths, the benefits, the opportunities available to you inside that organization. To be compelling, we need to do something else. We need to answer the number one question on the minds of our candidates. Think about last time you applied for a job. What did you want to know the most? Do I have what it takes to thrive? What challenges will I face inside of this organization? To be compelling, you have to answer those questions. You have to address the harsh realities, the adversities, the sacrifices and commitments that we know exist inside of all organizations. We just need to be honest about them. So I believe employer brand strategy is less about being a magnet to attract and more about a smart filter to make better career decisions. In my last book, we call that the give and get of employer branding, a two-way value exchange, not a one-way broadcast of strengths, benefits, and opportunities. If we're clear and confident enough to do that, we then set out to repel more people than we compel to us. We repel the many to compel the few. Who are the few? Who are these people? These are the people with the capabilities to drive the organization forward. These are the people that your CEO will thank you for. These are the people who will join, not despite the challenges, but because of them. Because now they can see how they're going to find a sense of purpose, a sense of impact, and a sense of belonging. Victory. My favorite movie, Star Wars. There is one question that takes you through the entire movie. And it's Luke's inner motivation. Do I have what it takes to be a Jedi? We need an employer brand strategy that puts our candidates and employees to a decision. And we need to give them the information to make the right decision, and then we need to live with it. But for a second, this isn't just about an external audience choosing whether to join or not. Think about the employees already there. With this conversation we're having now, they feel seen and heard. They feel acknowledged and appreciated. Imagine that. The burdens we all put up with inside of our job in this conversation cease to be the burden. They become a badge of honor. The challenges we face, when we're honest about them, are the quickest way to find the true source of passion and pride inside our organizations. When's the last time you had a real sense of pride about something that was really easy to do? We can have real conversations. And lastly, authenticity. This one's a killer. We need to agree on this one thing from an authenticity perspective. For our employer brand strategy to be really authentic, it needs to be primarily based in the future. Not in the present, not the past of where we've come from, but it needs to be a tangible bridge between the reality of today and the reality of the future. To be in service to the CEO who isn't satisfied with the status quo, who has a vision for the organization, we need to be telling the story of where we're going and what it's going to take to get there. Imagine this. We're stood in a beautiful meadow. There is picnic tables laden with food and drink. The sun is shining. There's a breeze on our face. The view is spectacular. Life is good. The path behind us is shallow and flat. That's where we came from. And I want to recruit you now to come on a hike with me up this trail. Do you want the information about where we're stood, where we've come from? Or do you want me to tell you about the rocky trek that's going to get steep, quick, and round the next bend is a ravine that we're going to have to help each other to cross? And at some point, we're going to have to claw with our hands to climb if we're ever going to reach the top. That's the information you want, right? That's what we need to know. That's our career journey that we're trying to weigh up. and decide, do I have the capability to do it? Maybe you do, but you don't have the will. You just don't want to. As a leader, I want you to decide. I don't want to be halfway up that mountain only to find the team is abandoned and left, and I'm doing it alone, wondering why I started all this in the first place. We need to tell stories of where we're going and what it's going to take to get there. So, for business leaders, there's the 3-point blueprint right there. We need to align with a tangible reputation that's capable of finding and keeping people with the right capability to win. We need to resist being merely attractive and lean into being compelling with the give and get proposition that is meaningful to all concerned. And finally, we need to tell forward-facing stories of, where we are now, where we're going, and what it's going to take to get there. If we do this, I hope we can agree now, that culture can't eat strategy for breakfast, because culture is a strategy. And now, possibly the most important strategy of all, with the advent of AI, technological advancement has just become a utility, a commodity, like gas, electric, and water. People really are the only competitive advantage left in business. And if we grasp this opportunity, let's agree this: culture eats competition for breakfast. But to us, the individuals, the candidates and employees, people navigating their own career, when you're making that next difficult decision, whether to stay, whether to go, whether to join a new adventure, do you know what you're looking for in terms of what's your sense of purpose, your sense of impact, your sense of belonging? You owe it to the organization, but more importantly, you owe it to yourself to know the answers to those questions, so you know what it takes to be a Jedi in your job. If you only do that, even if organizations are slow to embrace this strategy of employer brand, then we all get closer to a world where culture eats competition for breakfast and everyone loves their job. Thanks for listening.